Hello, 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 my friends and family on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube. I hope you all are well and enjoying wherever you are. Um, Hamas Siddiqui, I'm back with a very, very exciting session today. And this session is about presentation. So we all do presentation throughout our lives, whether we are at the age of 1 year or at the age of post retirement, we all have to communicate and make some kind of a presentation. You're in sales or you're an executive, we all go through this process. And as I always say, is that when we growing up, people tell us to listen carefully, and people say us speak positively, and people tell us to focus, but nobody tells us how to. How do you focus? I mean, you said focus on things. How do you focus on things? Nobody teaches you how to focus. Well, now people do, but when I was growing up, I regularly heard that. Listen carefully. I mean, what do you mean by that? Listen carefully, or focus. What do you mean by focusing? uh, you know, Speak positively or with passion or whatever. I mean, how do you do that? Luckily, now we are in the age of social media, in the age of YouTube, and we can learn a lot. But today, I have a very special guest, my friend Jennifer Beaumont. She is a presentation skills coach, and she's been doing it for more than 13 years. And she's an award-winning professional facilitator and trainer and a presenter. And she worked in various senior level position, leadership position, and trained tons and tons of people during her career. She now has a consultancy business, and she also has been a speaker at TEDx Seattle. And she actually tells people, her audience, how to speak. And she is just fascinating. So without any further ado, I will bring Jenny online. Hey, Jen, how are you?
Hi, Hamad. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for joining in and sparing this time to be with our audience on LinkedIn and Facebook. Well,
It's good to be here.
Srija just told me that they've lost connection with Facebook, which is fine. It's going live on LinkedIn and also on YouTube. So the video will be available on YouTube for us to share later on,
Oh,
and it
good.
will be available on LinkedIn also for anybody who watches it. So, Jen, I mean, 13 years as a presentation coach. I mean,
Yes, it's unbelievable. Well, as a presentation coach with my consulting business, that's been 3 years, Hamad.
right.
However, I have been a professional corporate trainer, facilitator, and coach for 13 years.
That's a
And
long time.
it is a long time. And what's fascinating about it still to me is that I used to greatly suffer from the paralyzing fear of public speaking.
All right.
Yes, it was scary, very scary. And I saw how that fear was negatively impacting my career and my self-esteem. So Hamad, I took a job as a corporate sales trainer because I knew it would force me to overcome that fear, and it worked.
Oh yeah, so super. I mean, see, the thing is that people have fear of water, for instance, and as soon as they start swimming, they deal with that fear. So you have to actually start doing things. And I always tell my clients and my friends, if you really don't know something, the fear will be an automatic process. You will be scared of doing things. Like those who don't drive a car, until they don't learn to drive a car, they will be scared, right?
The
Uh,
unknown.
yeah. Like my younger daughter, now she'll be learning driving. She's turned 16, but like she used to say, no, I will never drive because I don't know how to handle this animal. I mean,
This animal.
and
I love
there's
it.
so many cars on the road. How do you handle it and stuff? But now, I mean, she's like 16 and she's more comfortable with kind of handling the steering, and so with the passage of time, you learn if you keep practicing. And one thing that I learned like ages ago. I don't remember in which book I read that principle, which is a 5P principle. So P, 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 P. And those 5P are practice, 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 and more practice. Keep practicing.
It's so
Uh,
true.
yeah,
It's so true. Hamad, what you were just saying, anything that you fear, you got to just jump into it. Because I think we exaggerate how bad we think it's going to be. And then once we're in it, we start to feel more comfortable and we can grasp it
oh,
better.
yes. I mean, we are human beings, you know. There is a very unusual quality that we have as humans is the learning capability. I mean, even animals can learn, but their learning is limited to certain things. Whereas as human, you know, if we can fly an aeroplane, right, 36,000 feet or whatever, you know, with 600 passengers in 380 now, and we
That's a
still do
big
it.
plane.
I mean, think about it. I mean, I've done so many like 14 hours flights in my life, but you know, those who are traveling for the first time, you can see that scary face. You know, you will see several scary
Yeah.
faces. And for those who have been doing it, for them, it's like, all right, you know, we'll take off, we'll land, and that will
We
be done.
adapt. We
Yeah,
adapt.
we adapt.
That's what's so
So,
cool about it.
absolutely. So, share something exciting you did today or yesterday.
Oh my gosh, yesterday or today?
Yeah.
Today, well, I'm in Seattle, Washington. So it's around 10:30 in the morning. I can't say I've done something super exciting already today. I have responded to all my pending emails. That for me that's exciting.
That's great. That's great. And I think most of us usually do when we get up in the morning. I usually do not look at my emails on my handphone. My handphone is for certain things, and my laptop is for the rest of the things. So, all my communication, even my WhatsApp, during the day, it's always on my laptop. So, um, and I do the same thing when I get up. First thing, left switch on laptop, and then look at your emails. And this is and the sense of achievement of dealing with those emails right in the beginning of your day is just phenomenal, right?
It's part of the day today. Okay, I just remembered something I did accomplish yesterday. Are
Yeah,
you ready? Are
please
you
go ahead.
ready?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
It was 90 degrees in Seattle. And if you are familiar with this area, those are very rare days.
Yes,
And I
yes,
survived. I'm not a heat person.
yeah.
Survived the heat wave.
Yeah, we had pretty warm days even in Toronto, but now today it's pretty. Yeah, since yesterday it was very windy. I mean, I had to pull out a fleece to go out for walk, and today it's pretty cold. So we'll probably have single digit temperature today
Oh,
tonight,
good.
but it's improving. I mean, it's sunny, it's nice, it's bright. So I mean, let's jump onto some of the things that we really want to share with you or learn from you
Sure.
in this session. Now, the first question that I have in my mind, although you know, I initially said you know we all do presentations of some sort throughout our
Mhm.
lives.
Mhm.
How do you how do you say that a good presentation skills or your ability to like present nicely or professionally can help you grow in your career. I mean, the career
Mm.
is such a wide terminology, right? You know, you can, as I said, you can be a pilot, or you can be a clerk, you can be a government servant, you can be a janitor, you can be anything, and that's your career. Now, I mean, my bigger question is, how can we be so generic when we say your presentation skills can help you grow in your career?
Yeah, each career can showcase a different type of presentation. So if you're working in the corporate world, you could be giving presentations to your team, your executive leadership team. However, every time we talk, Hamad, every time we talk, we are presenting because we are presenting ourselves. I like to think of our presentation skills that it's part of our professional brand. We become known for it. Think of it this way. When you're about to give a presentation, especially in the work environment, the audience that's about to attend, if they're familiar with your presentation style, they are either excited and they're looking forward to it because they know you're a strong presenter, or the other approach, they could be dreading attending the presentation because the presentation skills are not strong. So I believe, and I have seen it firsthand, that our presentation skills, it greatly impacts our career because it becomes part of our brand. It also gives us exposure to leadership, and for us to be able to articulate our ideas and show a level of leadership skills during our presentations at the same time.
Yeah, so I mean, so technically speaking, regardless of whatever career you may have, whatever profession you are into, you have to have certain degree of like presentation skills
Mm-hmm.
that you could actually communicate, and the communication is like bilateral. You cannot just like monologue. You have to understand and then respond. So
Yes.
how would you? So a lot of presenters can still be monologue. I personally don't like it. I like more conversational. What kind
Yes.
of so when you coach people, what do you suggest? I mean, how can a presenter be like do a dialogue rather than just pumping people with or bombarding
Okay.
people with information?
So, how do we shift from having a monologue, a one way presentation, versus a dialogue where it becomes a conversation with the audience? It's actually pretty simple. It's when you are presenting, it's pausing. It's actually we stop talking and we pull our audience into the conversation. We can ask for their thoughts, their experiences, or their ideas. I love setting up ahead of time before a presentation. I will always let my audience know, hey, I want to hear from you during this time together. I want to hear your thoughts and your ideas. And then when you do pause to pull them into the conversation, it feels more natural. And Hamad, this is a presenter tip. It's a
Mhm.
trick for presenters. If you are feeling nervous or a lot of anxiety with giving a presentation, it is beautiful for when you pause and pull the audience in, because it relieves you from the pressure of maintaining a monologue. And monologues are boring. People shut down, they start multitasking. So the more we can get the audience involved, it's a win-win for everyone. It keeps everyone engaged.
Yeah. So, and I see a lot of presenters also struggle in kind of engaging rather than, they
Mm.
prefer as if, they're so scared, I would call them, they just want to throw out everything they have onto audience and just want to walk away. Uh,
Yeah.
and that is really, really kind of, damaging to their own reputation as a presenter. Uh, can you suggest anything to them who are so uncomfortable and who just want to throw out everything?
You're referring to sharing too much information during a presentation?
Not only
So
too much,
we overload the audience?
overload the audience and just make a presentation and just get over with it. Like, this kind of an attitude. I've seen few, so that's why I'm asking.
Yes. Okay. I hope I'm going to answer your question. When you are preparing for the presentation, you are thinking of what you want to say, you're creating your visuals, your slides. The question to consistently ask yourself is, what is the main point? What is most important for my audience to walk away with? Because as you just mentioned, Hamad, if we dump everything we know onto our audience, and by the way, when we do that, that means we're making it all about ourselves. We're not taking care of our audience. If we dump everything onto the audience, then they're going to shut down and they're not going to remember the most important points. So as you're preparing your content, keep asking yourself what is most important, and that's what you want to emphasize. And that's what should be on the slides. Should we talk about slides for just a moment?
Yeah, please go
Okay,
ahead.
this is a very important topic. Here's why. A lot of presenters will create their slides and they will create it so that it's a script. for them. It becomes a teleprompter for them. Now, I understand why they're doing this because this feels safe. They have all their content on their slides, so now they can just read their slides to their audience and they're not going to forget what it is that they need to say. However, here's the problem. Adult audiences, they do not want to be read to. When we are reading, our tonality changes, our body language changes, we're probably not smiling, so our audience starts to shut down. So going back to your question, present what is most important. If you need to follow up after a presentation with an appendix with more information, do that. However, the presentation should just be what's most important. Does that help?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So,
Okay.
I remember, I think, who was that? I think probably Steve Jobs, yeah, or Richard Branson. Somebody wrote it somewhere or said in one of the videos that what presenters fail to understand is that their audience, if there's a presentation, if it's a PowerPoint presentation, they also have, uh, you know, an issue with viewing the presentation. So the visuals on that presentation and the size of the text on that presentation is really
Yes,
important. I think I can't recall who said that, but
it
what
makes sense.
take an idea of what your audience is, ages ages are, and divide it by two, and that should be the size of the font size on your presentation.
Okay, I like that.
So that's one thing. And the other thing is that some people, and I've seen presentations made by financial accountants or stuff, people who love numbers. I'm somebody who hates numbers, and their presentations are loaded with numbers and graphs
Mm-hmm.
and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as a non-financial person, it's almost impossible for me to grasp it. As soon as I see 10 numbers and some rows, I'm lost. I'm not there anymore. So, what do you suggest for those people who are making or who have to make presentation
Mm-hmm.
using numbers
Data. Mm-hmm.
or data?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the techniques they can use to help their audience remain engaged with the
Sure.
presentation? Yeah, please go ahead.
Presenting with numbers and data, it's important, especially to a lot of executive leadership teams. They need the hard facts. They need to know exactly what is going on. So if we do create a slide that has numbers on it, highlight the most important numbers. So whether it's circling the most important or capturing them in red or in green, because that way your audience, they know what to do with their eyes. So as soon as that slide pops up, whatever's in color is where your audience's attention is going to go. So if we just pull up a slide and it's loaded with numbers, your audience isn't going to know what to do with that.
Yeah.
So put some highlights, get some color on that slide so your audience knows what to do with it.
All right, this is great advice. So we have, allow me to recognize few people that I know, I think few people that we know together. We have Kim, thank you for joining in. We have Faz, thank you for joining in, Faz. We have my dear friend Shehzad Idwani from Toronto joining in. Thank you
Great.
very much. We have Ijaz from Saudi Arabia joining in. Dear friend Samia Zafar joining in. Samia is a resume and coaching expert, a very good friend. We have Ahmad joining in, uh, Umnia joining in, Waqas joining in from Dubai. Um, and
These
well,
are, these are great. I love these comments that are coming in.
yeah, uh,
Oh, I love this from Omnia. The
yeah,
beginning. The beginning of the presentation it's critical.
absolutely.
It's critical because this is think of the opening to your presentation. This is a beautiful stretch of time. Let's give it about 45 to 60 seconds. You get to make the first impression of what your presentation is going to be about. So, Omnia, what you wrote here, we want our opening to provide value to the audience. So here's a typical opening to a presentation, which most presenters do. And it sounds like this. Hi, I'm Jennifer Beaumont. I'm a presentation coach. I'm really excited to be here with you today. Let's get started. That does nothing for the audience. That doesn't tell them what to expect. It doesn't tell them what they're going to learn, what they're going to walk away with. So the opening is very, very important. We need to practice it. Hama, we need to write it down and practice it over and over so that when we give it, it is solid and it's confident. And that's the best way to start the presentation.
Absolutely. And I think 5P rule will rule always wherever you go. You have to practice, 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 and practice. And
Yes.
watch yourself, like do your own video and see how you perform. So my one of the major training programs that I did on presentation skills was 1992, yeah, 92, 93, and I worked with British government for 17 years. I was the head of commercial operations in Pakistan. So by virtue of that, we had access to some very exciting training that the Foreign Office would give to diplomats. And I was part of this massive 3-day training program in London. And this training program was conducted by two stage drama artists. And British stage drama, is a very popular thing, and there's the breathing practices and the way you chew word or throw word out, and the importance of using words and all that. They were very complex. So
Mm,
what they did, they on the first day, they did a very exciting exercise. I mean, I'm sharing with you because when you coach, you can actually do this exercise. It's so fascinating exercise. So they gave us like small, small cards. They say write a topic that you can actually speak for about 5 minutes on. And we all wrote, somebody wrote football, whatever, and they took all those cards, shuffled those cards, redistributed. Now,
ooh.
private fashion, for instance, I have absolutely no idea what fashion means. And that was a starting point. It was so exciting. And everybody was like puzzled, what did you do? And then what they did, they said, okay, whatever you want to say on that particular topic, come and we'll do a video shoot. So at that was a VHS video time, remember? And they did video for everyone in that session on that topic, and everybody there was pauses, struggle, lost words, lost sentences, whatnot, and then they coached us for 3 days. And on third day, towards the end, they again did the same thing. So they reshuffled, redistributed. Everybody had a different topic, and they said, "Now you have
Right.
the same thing. You do at the same thing." They did the video shoot again, and the it was a phenomenal change in 3 days. So we learned those techniques that a subject you are hardly aware of, you can actually make a presentation on that subject too, if you know those techniques. So training always provides us the insights that we don't have otherwise. And
Mm.
if we don't have those insights, the fear factor will remain be there. So that's one thing that we
Yes.
do.
So those insights that you're referring to, this is why it is imperative that we ask for feedback. We need to ask for feedback from people that attend our presentations. Hey, do I do anything distracting? What worked well for you? The more specific we are with the questions that we ask around the feedback, the more specific of an answer we're going to get. And another tip, the next time you give a presentation, especially if we're still working in this virtual environment, grab your phone, turn on the video. You don't have to video record yourself. At least it's still going to capture your audio. Put the phone down and record your presentation. At least capture the audio to start with, because you can now identify, do you have filler words, filler statements? Do you talk too quickly? Those are the tools that we need. We need to know how we're coming across to our audience.
Absolutely. And I worked in 12 countries in my career, which means, and by the way, English is not my mother tongue. My mother tongue is Urdu or Hindi. It's more or less
Mm-hmm.
the same dialect. This is my acquired skill. The way I speak is an acquired skill. I actually learned to speak and write in English. And the countries where I worked, at times English was not their language too. So, for instance, when I went to Romania, Bucharest, to train a bunch of association executives, they could understand English, but I had an interpreter with me because there were certain things they could not understand. So the interpreter had to explain it, and that was even more challenging because I was because it's always a kind of a train of thoughts, when you're making a presentation or coaching people, because we don't. I personally, at least, don't believe in a written manual. We have a manual, okay, we have a structure and everything, but it has to come from inside you, okay, all the examples and things. And I would find myself lost because this guy is now talking to the audience, and there were questions coming in, and he's trying to translate those questions to me. And in between, I'm lost. And that was really, really an
Mm.
interesting exercise for me. I learned a lot from them, from that those 3 4 days of training session, is to how do you keep your thought process intact when there are distractions? And there was like massive distraction for me. And what do you think, how do we keep as presenters our train of thoughts intact so that we don't so I know a lot of audience won't find us lost if we are experienced enough, but just for those people who are not as experienced as you are, is to keep that train of thought, whatever distraction we have.
How do we stay focused while we are presenting?
Yeah, yeah. Given the fact that we have like interpreter talking or there's some other distractions, a flashlight going, cell phone ringing, there could be so many things in presentations these days, right?
It's interesting. This question's interesting because I consider presenting as performing. Let me explain that. When you are the presenter, you are on. And it's all about the experience that you are giving your audience. When you are the presenter, nothing is about you. Nothing. It's all about taking care of your audience. So we don't want to allow those distractions to throw us off. So one way to keep our focus is to slow down. Hamad, I don't know if you noticed this. Some presenters, they talk so quickly during their presentation, they don't land on the period. There's never a pause. Their entire presentation can sound like one long run-on sentence.
Absolutely.
And their audience is going, oh my gosh, I have no idea what's happening. I don't know what's being said. They can't catch up. So a way to stay focused is to stay in control. Even if we feel really nervous during a presentation, which is fine, it doesn't matter if we feel nervous. That's normal, that's natural. I don't want your audience to see that you're nervous. So the more we can slow down our speaking pace and truly land on the periods, give that nice 1 or 2 second pause, it's going to calm you down, and it's also going to allow your audience to catch up and follow along with your message. That helps us to stay focused.
Yeah, I got your point absolutely. So I think rushing into presentation, as I said, people come in, they just want to get over with it and go away, will never work because we are not communicating with our audience. And that was the initial point. How do you build that communication so that it's not just you pumping information, but people are actually
Yes.
absorbing that information and asking questions. To me, if people don't ask questions, I have not done my job. They have to
Yes,
ask questions.
yes. I agree. Could I add something right
Yes,
here?
we do. My wife is asking for her glasses. You continue.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
I just put myself. You can continue. You are in control, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to add here. Goodbye, Hamad. I'm going to add that when we are presenting and we're not putting our audience first, our audience can feel it. They can tell pretty much instantly that it's all about the presenter. Oh, you're back. Hello.
I just had to give her glasses.
That was fun.
Yeah.
And now I lost my train of thought. Hamad, remind me what you were just mentioning. There was something I wanted to add to that.
Yeah, so we were talking about when presenters just throw everything out and do not communicate with the audience, do not engage with the audience. Um, if they don't engage with the audience, they're actually not
Mm.
communicating, which means they're not providing that valuable information that.
Oh, I remembered. I remembered what I was going to say. Thank you for
Right.
reminding me. When I am coaching with clients, I will often hear from my clients that their focus, their main priority during their presentation is to just get through the content and share what they need to share. And I always encourage that is not the right mindset, because that's when we do a data overload, we dump too much information on the audience and we're not taking care of them. So it's not about getting through your content. It's about engaging your audience, pulling them in, hearing from them, because that's how they're going to get the value from the presentation.
Absolutely. And I am just displaying this excellent um input from Dr. Shafi. Dr. Shafi is based in Toronto, also a very senior healthcare professional. Um, it's really important to establish that connection. If there is no connection, then you just probably be there and you're not going to contribute anything to this whole scene. And that actually makes you probably the worst presenter in uh,
Mm.
group. And do you really want to be like that? I think a presenter is a leader. And you also mentioned that, Jennifer.
Mhm.
And I can also relate to one of the very interesting incident. I would call it an incident. I was coaching uh, a group of very senior business executives, and there was a gentleman who was like very powerful business leader and all that. And he asked, so I asked a question, and he wanted to respond. And so there was like it was semi-informal coaching. So it was like a group of people, and I had a microphone in my hand, and I was doing it. So I gave that microphone to him to respond, so that everybody could hear it.
Mhm.
And he started, completely from a different tangent. So he started doing something saying something which was not part of this whole scheme. And at that point in time, I remembered when I was coached by British trainers, you should be in command. You are the presenter, you should be in command. And that was like, it took me like 10 seconds to decide. Within 10 seconds, I decided to snatch that microphone from his.
Oh, that was bold.
And literally, I'm telling you, if later on I thought, what did I do? It was like a very senior business leader, and I just did that. I just did that, and I took his name with
Okay.
respect, and said, um, "I'm presenting. I'm the coach. I'm in command. So either you respond to the question that I've asked, or you take this whole presentation in your hand, and I will sit on that seat, and you make a presentation."
Yes. Well,
And
you're
there,
making a really good point here.
and there was a pin drop silence in that room.
I
I
can
was
imagine.
thinking, what the hell has he done?
Well,
Imagine,
Hamad, your audience expects you to stay in control of your presentation. That they expect you to provide value and they expect you to stay in control of that presentation, which it sounds like you did. I wish I
absolutely.
could have been there. I wish I could have seen you just grab someone's microphone out of their hand.
I mean, and it took me. So the message that I wanted to really kind of build up on is when you are in control, it's not about controlling your presentation. It's about controlling the environment that you are in. And
Both,
if you can
yes,
do
the
that,
environment.
the whole environment, uh, then you are the winner, because then that means that people are listening to you. It means that you are actually making an impact on their
Hmm.
thinking process. You're being able to communicate what you want to communicate with them. Um, Again, I'm going back to the point you made earlier, the starting of a presentation, which is always very, very critical. Um, and particularly in the current time when a lot of presentations that we do and that we do is virtual, like And unfortunately, I would call it unfortunately, a lot of people keep their cameras off. So it's very difficult for coaches to communicate, like, to have like an eye connection, eye contact, and see. I mean, I'm okay if even if I'm in my, you know, evening shirt or whatever, I'm okay to have my camera on because I really like to communicate with the person that I'm talking with
It's
or
important.
I'm listening to. But in that situation, I mean, how do you start the whole conversation? Um, and this is, I think, you've given like tremendous pieces of advice, but this one advice could really be very beneficial for everybody because everybody is doing virtual things these days and they're struggling. I know they're struggling to find the right answer. I would like to learn from you as to what would you do or what do you do to kind of build that connection when you're doing a virtual event?
Are you referring if videos are turned off? You cannot
I
see
mean,
the audience?
yeah, I mean, that's just one scenario, but you're doing a virtual event. How would you start that communication, that build
Okay.
relationship
I've
kind of
got
a
I've
thing?
got this. I have the simple answer to this. You start the presentation, keep it light. Keep it fun and engaging. Here's the deal. We take ourselves too seriously. And people are sitting through multiple presentations a day. They're in and out of meetings all day long, and it's boring. It drains us. So, as a presenter, if we could come into our presentation being different, that's going to be the key word. Let's be different. Have a smile, crack a joke. Don't give your audience your resume dump. They don't care about where you went to school. Like, a presentation is not the time to boast about our achievements. Now, that doesn't mean we don't build credibility. We can still build credibility with our audience. Let's just do it a different way. Because Hamad, here's what happens very often. A presenter, the first thing that comes out of their mouth, first of all, they're not smiling. They have this stone cold look on their face and they give a resume dump. And they talk about all of their degrees and where they went to school, and the audience is going, oh my gosh, why am I here? What am I going to learn? So instead of starting your presentation with your name and your title, what if you started your presentation with an interesting statistic or fact that ties to the topic of the presentation? And then give one or two sentences as to why that's important. Then introduce yourself and keep it very short. And when I say to keep it short, tell them something interesting about you. We're all on LinkedIn. If they want to know your background, they can find it on LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah.
So rather, tell them something interesting about you so you can start building that connection. And then you end your opening with telling them, here's what you're going to learn today. You're going to walk away with X, Y, Z. So, Hamad, I actually created this 4-step opening. It's about a 30 to 45-second opening to a presentation. It's powerful and it's valuable for the audience.
No, this is fantastic. Um, and just to kind of add on to what you said before we go to Najia's point, it's a very valid
Mm-hmm.
point, Najia. I am not a
Mm-hmm.
native English speaker, as I said. I am an Urdu speaker, um, and I face this. So my younger brother, who has been in Canada for almost 22 years now, he studied here. In fact, he said that when you are not a native speaker, you can speak nicely most of the time, but there will be times when you cannot even buy a bread because you're lost. You're somewhere else and you're thinking in your own language. Uh, so this happens with everyone. You are not unique to it. If you are not
Mm-hmm.
a native speaker, your thought process will always be different. So psychologically or mentally, you are actually thinking in your own language, and with the power of your brain, you're converting that into English or Spanish or French, wherever you are. So that's pretty natural. And I think globally, people appreciate it. They don't mind, if you're lost for a while, but you need to know that you're lost. Then only you will recover. And that recovery time has to be very short. And that comes with practice. So what I usually do, and it works for me almost always. There could always be, stuff that you don't want to share, but most of the time I start usually with a question, and that question is not what do you want to learn, because I need to know my audience beforehand, and if I know the audience, I'm actually making a presentation for my audience, not for myself. With that focus, I I do a research. So whatever research that I have to do, I do a research, and I actually come up with those pain points that people usually face in a certain situation. For instance, Jen, I do LinkedIn profile optimization and coaching. I coach people how to use LinkedIn.
Yes, you
Now,
do.
now, that is one thing that I do for living. I have certain questions that I've experimented with. I know people don't know the answers of those questions. When you can prove without saying that you don't know, when you can prove in their head they do not
Mhm.
know the answer of those questions, they will be more attentive to learn what you want to tell them. And those questions, and then the benefits. Okay, if you do, what will be the benefit? Your why, as you said, why. And I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek's golden circle thing. So if you know your why, your what and how
Mhm.
will appear automatically. You need to know your why are
Yes,
you
that's
doing
part of the
this?
preparation. Why? Why should my audience listen to this presentation?
Absolutely.
It's good. It's good. Could we go back? I want to go back to the
Please,
comment
go
that was put in the
ahead.
chat box around when you are presenting. Oh, there it is. When you are presenting and your audience, you do not speak the native language of your audience. This is when it's even more critical that we slow down when we present because they have to work extra hard to follow along with what you are saying. And it's also important that we enunciate our words, that we're very clear with our language at the same time.
and
Really key.
and the thought process. So, and there could be certain things that if you have noticed that you will see some presenters, if you ask a question, they will start looking at the sky, and their eyes will go up, and
Oh, when they're being asked a question?
yes,
Yes, because that's how they're processing.
right,
Yeah.
right. So that's one thing that shows that you are. Uh, I want to mellow down my words. That shows that you are not in control. So if you keep looking, so practice it. So for anybody who is going to do the presentation, practice. So I sometimes do it, but I'm aware that I'm doing it, so I control it. If you're aware of certain things, then you can control, because human brain and humans are very very powerful. This thing that we have up there is extremely powerful.
Okay, wait. Did I hear you correctly? Are you saying if a presenter is being asked a question and the presenter looks up in silence as they're listening to the question, that they can appear not being in control?
If they're listening to a question, that's fine. If when they're responding and before responding, if they're so what I personally feel that if you're not looking at your audience, you have kind of disconnected yourself with them.
Mm, yes.
So
The eye
so
contact's
eye
very
contact, important.
important.
Yes.
I do feel, first of all, we're not robots, we're human. And we want to come across as human. If you're being asked a question and as you're trying to process the question, if you need to look up to symbolize that you're thinking, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, when you start answering the question, you don't want to answer to the ceiling. When you're talking, you want to make sure your words land on the audience.
So what I take from this conversation, this piece of conversation, is that try to stay in contact with the audience. Even if you're looking
Our eyes.
like this, you should really, well, first of all, practice not to. And once you practice it, then it will be okay. You will do it, you will minimize the whole process.
Be aware of it.
Be aware
Be,
of
be
that you
aware.
do it. Yeah. So that
Know
you
what
are,
you're doing.
so you process it quickly, and you come back and kind of like connect with your audience quickly. And this
Yes.
is so what I just did. I was lost of words because again, English is not my language, and I looked down I was aware of that what I'm doing. Kim says, should I worry about how something looks that I can do nothing about? For me,
They look odd
my
because of
eyes, they look
Aw.
odd because of a disease. I would appreciate your thoughts.
Yeah.
Thank
Kim,
you.
thank you. This is a very thoughtful
And brave
message.
question, brave question.
Well, it is a brave question. And what I love about this is, again, it goes back, Kim. We are all human. We are human. And if there is something that we feel, as you use the word, that looks odd, we may think it looks odd. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean other people think. They may not even notice. And if they do notice, they know you're human. So they're probably not fixated on it. As long as you are providing value during your presentation, that's all they care about.
Oh yes.
That's all they care about.
And
Yeah.
I
Thanks for
can totally.
asking.
Oh yes, thanks for asking, Jim. And I can totally relate to what you're saying, Jen. Uh, I was so I did a very interesting course at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which was a 4-year program, 96 credit hours. So every year we go back to a school which is called IOM, Institute for Organization Management, run under U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Uh, and they would take us into a 5-day intense program to do something. So, like I was getting their not-for-profit certification for. And one of the topic in one of the courses was uh, business law. And so we had a break, lunch break. We were out. Our trainer came in and he was sitting on a table like this, chair like this. We came in and everybody was class of 30 people. Everybody was looked at it and we started, oh my God, this looks like a very boring class. And the guy was like, it was like very flat faced, like a lawyer. I mean, I know lawyers are fun people too, but he was like that particular guy
Poor
was. And everyone is saying we had just had lunch, carbs inside our tummy, and this guy is going to bore us for next an hour and a half. Believe me, in that particular day, that was the best class that we had. This guy knew to engage people. This guy knew what information we need. So you need to know your audience. You
Yes.
don't
That was a
matter.
first impression, though. That was a first impression when you walked into that room.
Yeah,
It's really important that as presenters, we understand what is the first impression we are making? What do you want it to be?
yeah.
And again, it goes back to that opening to your presentation. What is the first impression that you want to make? Hey, Hamad, can we go back to we were talking a little bit ago about questions, handling Q&A
Yes, go ahead.
when we're asked questions during a presentation. I want to share a tip around this because this is a very common mistake, very common. When you're asked a question, your job is to answer the question, literally keeping the answer very short and concise. I notice that a lot of presenters, when they're asked a question, they then want to share everything they know. They want to give all of the background behind that question. That's not what the audience is looking for. So, when asked a question, keep it very short and concise. Only answer what they're looking for. And you can always follow up with, does that give you what you need, or do you need more information? When an answer is becoming 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes long, do you know what's happening to the audience, Hamad?
Well,
They shut down.
yeah.
They check out. They're bored. they even forget what the question was. So just give that very short, clear, concise answer, and you can always ask if they need more information.
Yeah, I'm in the habit of giving long answers, which is bad. But again, my point is that if you are aware of your mistakes, then you can correct it.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
always know when I'm kind of, and whenever I'm like in a, like this morning I was in a clubhouse group, and clubhouse you have to be very very specific, very short answers. But some of the questions were so interesting that I had to kind of give a bit of background to that question also. But I actually spoke to the moderator earlier and said, if I'm going on, please flash your your mic so that I know that I'm going.
Oh, you
I'll
just
let you
nailed
off.
it, Hamad. If you have to ask yourself, am I talking too much? You already know the answer. So,
Yeah.
guess what? If you realize you're talking too much during an answer or during the presentation, guess what you do? You stop talking.
Oh yeah.
You just
Shut
go,
up.
just stop talking,
Yeah.
pause, go silent. And you
Yeah.
could even have fun with your audience and say, oh my gosh, I just went on forever. I apologize.
Yeah.
Just stop because they've already checked out anyway.
Yeah. And what I also experiment with, as a habitual talkative person, I always towards the end. So if I've given the basic answer at the beginning and I kind of few further words in between, I always go back and refer. Okay, long answer to your short question is this. So I always repeat the answer that I've given earlier
Mm.
and kind of talked about so that reconnecting with the same question.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
it's also nice to repeat
yeah,
the
yeah,
question. So you're making sure you heard it correctly. And if someone in the audience did not hear the question and you repeat it, now you know everyone is on the same page. I see another question from Omnia.
yes. One
Yes.
more important thing is the tone we use in our presentation is
Hmm.
different, going in harmony with the topic we are talking about. What do you think about
Yes, this
the
is
question?
I love this question because our delivery, our tonality is critical. Our facial expressions and our vocal tone, it needs to match the message. Omnia, I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm presenting to my team and I say to my team, hey, great job, everyone. We had an amazing month. We hit our numbers. I'm really proud of you. There's a disconnect.
Yeah,
My facial expression does not match that message. My tonality, my energy does not match that message. So, yes, we want to create a congruent delivery with facial tone to match the message. Now, if you're talking about layoffs, you don't want to go you don't want to go into that presentation. Hey everyone, how are you? Let's talk about layoffs for Q4. That's not going to fly
yeah,
either. So, yes, we really want to be aware of our tone and does it match the message?
yeah. Be human, as I call it. People. I do like content coaching and stuff, and I always tell people, be human. You don't have to be perfect all the time. Humans, we are not perfect. uh, but just be human, like the way other people think. You're writing
Yeah.
for your audience. You're not writing for yourself. If you're writing for yourself, then you will read it and you will watch your videos. Nobody else will do that. So
Yes.
I think we are getting close to. We actually have very close to our end of the session, and I'm just scrolling if we have some interesting questions.
This was
Satya,
so fun.
thank
I
you
love
very
doing this with
much.
you, Hamad.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you. You.
Oh, there's Kim. She's talking about
Yeah,
smiling. It's so
yeah,
important. We really need to smile more as presenters. It puts our audience at ease, it puts us at ease. And when we smile, Kim, going back to what you just said, if we're feeling really nervous to give a presentation, if we smile, it covers up that nervousness. We look more confident and we're actually telling our audience, I want to be here with you
yeah. And one of the things that I always do, and I'm sure you recommend also, be at the venue pretty early.
early, early, early.
Yeah, because
Yes.
just in that environment, think about it. And in a lot of instances, I'll actually reach to venues before anybody else had arrived.
Yes.
Probably just the organizers. Because so it's human being, right? And I'm comfortable with the environment. I've checked the microphone. I've checked the lights and everything. Ran my presentation, and the comfort level of this whole scenario. Just thinking that okay, yeah, I'm okay with this, everything.
Hmm.
It really, and then you're actually meeting and greeting people. You're actually
Yes, this
building
is
that
key.
relationship with
This
them.
is
It's
key.
so, yeah, absolutely.
It
So
is. It gives you
so
time to get settled in. It's going to help boost your confidence. It's going to help calm your nerves. What you're talking about, Hamad, is I call it the pre-show routine. What is your pre-show routine before you start a presentation? Whether it's over Zoom or it's in person, you got to get into that space early, get set up, have no technical issues, make sure your slides are working, and then you have time to breathe and welcome your audience.
yeah,
It's imperative.
ab-
It's imperative.
absolutely. So just we have one more appreciation
Okay.
and a very quick response to this one. Influencing audience. How do you?
Okay, methods on influencing the audience. The first thing that comes to my mind is, as you're preparing to give your presentation, identify who is your audience. What do they already know about this topic? What potential concerns will they have around this topic, this presentation? Because if we think of that ahead of time and then we create our message for that particular audience, we're going to be influencing them. I'll tell you what does not influence an audience. And we talked about this earlier. When it's a one-way monologue, when we are racing through the content, when we have heavy, boring slides, that is not going to influence the audience. Speaking to what is most important and even I love telling the audience, ooh, what I'm about to tell you is what's most important.
Yeah,
When you say that, everyone perks up. Oh, this is
absolutely.
what's most important. And we can start to build influence that way.
Absolutely. And your knowledge is influence. If you can share that knowledge in a way that your audience understands what you're telling them,
Yes,
that's influence.
in a very succinct
Yes.
way. And one more tip. I have so many tips with this stuff. Take out the acronyms, take out the initialisms, take out the business jargon. Presenters will throw out acronyms to their audience and they make an assumption that everyone knows what that acronym
Yeah.
means. That's not true. And now you're losing part of your audience. So take out
Absolutely.
the stuff that could be confusing. Don't make an assumption that everyone's going to know.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you, Jen, for your time. And this is just
You're
start our
welcome.
discussion. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. And please follow Jen. She is great. You will learn a lot from her posts and the tips she shares on
Oh,
her.
please
On
find me
her.
on LinkedIn. I,
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn.
absolutely. And with that, the session now ends, but your learning should not end, right?
I
Keep
love that.
learning and keep engaging with us. My only objective is to bring in some brilliant friends that I have, uh, and I'm making very fast also to share their knowledge. I learn a lot, and that gives me an opportunity to share their knowledge with the audience that I have. With that, thank you very much, and have a wonderful
Thank you,
evening,
everyone.
afternoon, or
Thanks so much.
whatever.